Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. Among the great mysteries of life is personality development. Sometimes it seems like there are as many theories as there are personalities. The fact is, it's a great mystery how a given person turned out to be the way they turned out to be. Sometimes there are obvious clues, like abusive childhood or getting spoiled with too much wealth. Education clearly plays a major role, as does parenting. But at the end of the day, pretty much everybody fits into the category of it's just a combination of things and the way they worked out the way they did. Why it has to be this way isn't the least bit clear. Why couldn't we be predictable, like some machine that we know what will happen and have a fairly good idea of when things will start going awry? But as we all know, we aren't machines. We may have DNA and bones and livers with neurons and neurotransmitters to handle the brains, but we are infinitely more than all that. We are complex. We may crave simplicity at times, but there's no getting around the fact that we ourselves are quite complex. We are made not just of the internal parts, but also of the experiences and thoughts that shape us into who we are. A machine is a what, but we are a who. That makes all the difference in the world. The big monkey wrench in all this, of course, is our ability to choose who we will be and what we will believe. This is an enormous factor in our complexity, which cannot be quantified in any way whatsoever. We can debate free will from here till tomorrow, but at the end of the day, we all know that we have what appears to be the freedom to decide essential matters of whom we wish to be. All the behavioral psychology and neuroscience in the world can never take that factor out of the mix. Two children growing up in almost identical homes take two completely different paths in life. It happens all the time, and it's as common as an internet phone call reconnecting. It would seem that something as fundamental as the Bible should have something to say about all this. Granted, the Bible is not going to negate free will, but maybe it zeroes in on that magic formula that ensures that a person will turn out to be the way they are supposed to be. Alas, there is no such magic formula in the Bible that spells it all out like a recipe for chocolate cake. There are only scattered bits and pieces here and there that may shed some light on the issue, if one is willing to look. This week's Parsha is called Toldot. That word means generations, a very biblical word. It can also mean history or story or something along those lines. It's the key word in the opening phrase that introduces the story of Isaac. This happens to be the single Parsha in the Torah that really focuses on Isaac and Rebekah. Isaac only appears as a child before this Parsha, and he hardly appears afterwards. Rebekah hardly appears at all, either before or after this Parsha. So this Parsha is supposed to be the Parsha of Isaac and Rebekah. It happens, however, that the Parsha mostly deals with the story of the twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Esau. We hear about their conception and birth, a brief bit about their youth, and a rather long description of an incident in which Jacob managed to receive the blessing of the firstborn from his old and blind father, despite the fact that he was actually born second. This story takes about half the Parsha and is filled with intrigue and controversy. Famously, with the help of his mother, who was on his side, Jacob actually tricks his father into giving him this blessing, essentially behind Esau's back. After all was said and done, Isaac had to tell the disappointed Esau that the blessing had taken effect regardless of how it was procured, and he would have to be satisfied with a lesser blessing. This incident cemented forever the enmity between the brothers, Jacob and Esau. But there's a little background to all this drama that sometimes gets missed in the intrigue. This background is found at the beginning of the Parsha, when the boys have just come of age. Jacob, who is described as a simple or straightforward person who tended to stay in the tent, has made some porridge. Esau, who had been described as an outdoors type who was an expert in trapping, came in and saw the porridge cooking. He was hungry and wanted a meal right on the spot. Jacob sensed an opportunity to gain advantage in the future. He told Esau that he would sell him the porridge in exchange for the right to be the firstborn. Esau readily agreed to this, reasoning that, quote, I am going to die anyway, so why do I need this firstborn right? The sale was done with an oath to make it completely valid, and that was that. The final words of the incident tell of Esau's reaction to the whole thing. Quote, "He ate, he drank, he rose, he left, and Esau rejected the birthright." This ends this part of the Jacob-Esau saga. It serves as the background for the business with the blessing, because that blessing was specifically for the firstborn. Biologically, that was Esau, but legally, it was Jacob. So who was supposed to get it? Obviously, Jacob thought he had the right to it, which was why he went on with his mother's plan to get it by stealth. Isaac, who presumably was unaware of this background story, expected to give Esau the blessing. Esau, who of course knew of the deal, still expected to receive the blessing, presumably because he never put much stake in the firstborn status to begin with. So that sets the scene for this epic biblical struggle that in some way would be representative of the spiritual battle over the millennia between those who are on Jacob's side and those who are on Esau's. This whole story, with all its background, would have serious historical implications for the way the Israelites and the Jews would look upon themselves and their enemies through the centuries. Putting all that aside for the moment, we have to wonder what exactly caused this vast difference in attitude between these twin sons. They had the same mother and father. They lived together until they were at least the age of 40, which was sometime before the incident with the blessing. The single clue we have as to what might have caused this difference is stated right after their birth. The Torah says that Isaac favored Esau since he was trapped with his mouth, while Rebekah favored Jacob. This verse has received a vast amount of commentary through the centuries, since it clearly says that Isaac favored Esau. What could account for this favoritism of the son who ended up becoming the classic biblical villain? The only clue we have is that puzzling phrase, "What he trapped was in his mouth." What could that possibly mean? The simple meaning is that Esau would feed Isaac the game that he trapped, thus ensuring his preference. While this is a bit underwhelming for an answer to this classic question, there is no denying that this is what is written in the text. But perhaps there is something else going on, beyond mere good-tasting food. The classic alternative is that Esau roped in Isaac because he, quote, trapped him with his mouth, meaning that he was a smooth talker. Rebekah didn't fall for this and favored her straighter, slightly younger son. But what accounts for this difference in which one twin is straight and the other is sly? There are no clues whatsoever in the text to answer this question. It seems like that was just the way it was. But what does that mean? How can something as essential as this, the difference between Jacob and Esau, be left at that's just the way it was? There must be something else hidden in the words to account for this crucial difference. There is a weird description at their birth of Esau being, quote, red and hairy, whereas Jacob was grabbing onto Esau's heel. Their names, a classic biblical indication of destiny, are equally nondescript. The only possible avenue we have to solve this mystery is a prophetic message Rebekah received when she was pregnant with them and experiencing great pains. It seems that they were already clashing while inside her. The prophetic message she received was that they would both become the foundations of great nations and would always be striving against each other, but the elder would serve the younger. It seems that there is some strong element of destiny at work here. While we tend to dismiss destiny as a factor in our lives, the Bible doesn't. Destiny is every bit as important as the choices one makes in life. In this case, the destiny was that the older boy would have to serve the younger, as unjust as that might seem. But this had to play out in some way, and so it did. First, Jacob managed to gain the birthright from Esau, and then he used it to gain their father's primary blessing. This essentially forged their destinies and ensured that the prophecy would come to be. The question that remains on all this is what accounts for Esau's outright rejection of the birthright after having sold it to satisfy his appetite? Was he simply bowing to his destiny and giving up his right? Or was he making a conscious choice? The wording clearly supports the latter. He was making a conscious choice. So was it his destiny to do this, or was it all his own doing? Perhaps the answer to this question is that it was both. There was this destiny that had to be played out somehow, but it was his own choice that triggered things to go in that direction. We call our own shots in life, even if our destiny was somehow written out in advance. Although this may sound like a contradiction, there is something intuitively true about it. We all sense that we make our own choices. This is one of the most basic of human experiences. But we also sense that many things in life, perhaps most, are really out of our control. It is this combination of the personal and the fatalistic that really guides our lives. We are steered along a course in life by factors that are beyond our control. But working alongside that external force, we steer our own course, making our own choices and bearing the consequences. So when all the dust clears, what makes one person be one way and another be something else? It is this combination of choice and what used to be called fate. It might be DNA. It might be some outside influence. It might be luck. It might be getting caught up in the things of the times. It might be one of a million factors that make us who we are. But after all that is accounted for, we still have to make our own choices. Esav may have been fated to serve Jacob, but he didn't have to reject the birthright. Perhaps things would have turned out different for him if he had his priorities straight. Shabbat Shalom.